Lab number 241. In this lab, we'll fix the issues that we found with quality assurance service. I mean, showing past orders instead of logout button, and also showing the time on the application screen. So we'll start with past orders that we'll get from JSONStore. For that, we will be using the same button that we had for logout, just change the logo and change the action. It will be a modal window that will show up. So first of all, let's open our browser and navigate to Ionic framework documentation. So we are interested in JavaScript section, and there we should find a model. So as you can see, we will be using Ionic model from Ionic framework. It is really easy to set up. We just need a separate HTML file or injected test script. We'll go with separate one. Copy the example code, something like this. Let's open the studio and create a new file under www folder, something like orders HTML, and pass this code here. Let's save this file, and that's all for now. Let's go back to browser and copy the control functions for this model window. So what we need here is, first of all, we need to define what will be the Ionic model. So we will have it from a template the same as here, but we called it orders HTML. And then basically we will have open model function that will show up this Ionic model window, close function, and probably destroy, then will be called when it's hidden. So let's just copy this code and pass inside our controller. So under GS controllers GS, I will pass it at the bottom of our code, somewhere here. So we can actually remove now this logout function. We don't need it anymore. We'll have open model instead of it. Let's rename my model to orders HTML, like this. And we also need to add dependency on it on top for our controller. So just add here Ionic model. So what we should do next is, actually when we're clicking on this button that we'll call open model function, we need to load data from JSONStore. So we will do it by, first of all, defining collection name. So let's call the property the same, collection name, and of course in our case it's orders, and then using val JSONStore get with our collection name, and find all function that will actually get all documents inside this collection. We can get the result and let's forward it. So we'll have a function with the input parameter something like array results. And here we will need to pass those results to some kind of value property. So let's define something like past orders here that will be equal to this array results, and afterwards, in case it will be successful, we will show this model window. So I will move this model show inside success of receiving documents. I will also initialize this past orders somewhere at the beginning with empty array. And we will need to access the data inside our model window. So let's rename title of model window to something like past orders. And here, instead of this hello, we will need to have some kind of list. So for that, let's go back to Ionic, and now we will be interested in CSS documentation, and we will look for some list examples. So this looks cool. Let's use this example with span. There we will show a price, and instead of record album we will show the order number. So we don't need an icon, there is no sense in it, so we'll remove the styles and an icon itself. Instead of record album we will have here order number, and then we need to access our past orders. So instead of Grammy we will have only the price here. So now it's time to make our list repeatable using ngRepeat. So let's call this order. It will be a specific item in our array of past orders. And to access an order number, we will need to get inside our order. Then response will be inside JSON doc. This is the standard structure that we will have inside our response. And afterwards, we can have our order number. As you remember, we called it order. And almost the same construction will be for a price. As you remember, we called it cost. So let's save this. And we also need to change our index.html page to replace the icon and the button. So instead of logout, here we will have open modal. Instead of assertive, which means red, let's make this button dark color. And instead of ion logout, let's look for some icon. I will search for ionic icons. And here we have some kind of navigation or list example. So let's copy this one. And the second task for us will be to display a clock that will show time, date, and day of the month. So for that we will need to open the browser and search for something called Angular clock. So here in npm repository you can see that we have a special Angular clock widget. So we will need to install it using this boiler install Angular UI clock -- save. So let's do it. I will open terminal for that. Let's first navigate to www folder and then type this boiler install Angular UI clock -- save. So this component will be installed inside boiler components folder. Let's open it in a file manager and cut the clock from there and pass it inside www lib folder. Now we can remove actually boiler components folder totally. So next thing we need to do is actually to add reference to it in our index.js to load this file. So we'll do it by copying one of the script lines and then copying full path of our newly installed component. So just open this Angular UI clock dist and then right click on Angular clock.js and copy project path. We'll need to replace path with what we had here before and remove the www folder. So that's first step. Next step is actually to copy the example of markup, how this clock should look like. So just copy this example from here and let's pass it inside our index file right after menu category before closing the div. So we need only hours and minutes here, so it will look like this. We don't need these two, but we need to say date show digital. To be able to have a digital clock instead of a classic round one, it should be data rather than date. Sorry. We'll put this in a separate div. We already have a class for that in our CSS file, so it should be named date time with time in uppercase. And we also have padding here. So we'll close this div. And the second thing we need to do is to add information about date. So we're using p tag here for that, and Angular capabilities with a filter. So we'll filter date for a specific display format. So we'll have information about day of the month, and of course day of the year. I mean day of the week. Sorry, we don't need this comma here. And it should look like this. And the last thing we should do here is to add in app.js a reference to our added component. It calls dsClock. So just save it. I will clear terminal. Go back to root folder and perform mfp push to Bluemix for MobileFirst starter project. And let's also open in separate terminal Android's virtual device manager with Android AVD command and start our Nexus 10 image that was prepared for this lab series. We need to put the mark scale display to real size and make sure the monitor DPI is 120. Otherwise, it will just be too big. So let's wait until our emulator will start and then we can push application to it. So it started, and now we can go back and type mfp Cordova run -p Android to actually install the application to our Android device. So let's wait until this process will finish. So our application is starting. As you can see, we probably missed something, so let's check what is wrong using the inspect devices in Chrome. Definitely, I forgot to specify that it will be filter for a date. So here we should add date. Click Save and push the changes to Bluemix. And the application itself can be updated using direct update technology, so I can close this one. Launch it once again, and it should get information about the update available. So our app running with the latest version now. We can add some items to menu. We can click clear, so everything is actually working. We can even try to check out an order. So order checkout successfully. Let's try to check our button for a list of past orders. Yep, so we have a list of past orders with price. And we also have a time with information about what is the date today, months, date for this month and the year. So we can close everything, and on this step our lab number 241 is finished. We successfully get the list of orders from our JSON store. We also managed to update the app using direct update and add a clock to it. So we will continue with this Canteen point of sales application development in next labs. Thank you.